Hello, welcome to Do It Yourself with Wayne. Today we're going to be working on our spice cabinet. Now this is where we keep our spices in our kitchen, and it's always been a problem with seeing what's in the back. So the things that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the problems that we have with our spice cabinet. We're going to build shelves to put our spices on so we can see what's in the back a lot better. We're going to talk about the problems with buying the ones that you can get online or at the local stores. But we're going to show you how we determine what size steps we want and how many. Then we're going to show you building that little shelf or the steps for our spices. Then we're going to put them in here and arrange everything and show you how much different it looks when we're finished. So to get started, like I said, this is our spice cabinet. And obviously you can't see the spices that are back in the back. We tried these little trays. They work some, but you got to pull them out to see what's in the back. The stuff that's taller, it just sits back in there and you can't hardly tell what it is. These things kind of helped. You pull them out and then you turn them. And that helped a good bit. But the problem you got when you turn this thing, it reaches over into this area. So if you got stuff sitting here, which most people would, you try to fill your shelves up because you always seem to have more stuff than you got room for. You pull this out, you can't turn it because of what's sitting here. So you either got to take that out before you can turn this or push it back out of the way or something. So that doesn't work too well either. So anyway, that's kind of the problems that we're working with, that we're wanting to fix today. And we did some shopping both online and at local home type stores, and you can buy the shelves that you can put in your cabinet for your spices and stuff. And the problems that we see with that is how much height do you have between here and the bottom of this shelf. The more height you got here, the higher that back shelf can be. Well, if you buy something online or at a local store, I mean, you just got to buy what they have. What we're going to show you how to do is figure out what step heights you need to work best for you. And then we're going to show building those steps. And then in the end, we're going to show installing it in our cabinet and showing you how much difference it makes after we build our little shelves. Now, the first step in building our shelves for our spice cabinet was to determine how high each shelf needed to be and how wide front to back each shelf needs to be. Now, one thing that I've seen in a lot of places when people are showing the little shelves and stuff that you can buy or build, they show a finished product where all your spices are the same brand, they're all the same size containers, and I don't think that's realistic for most people. So what we did, I cut just out of scrap some little shelf pieces and a bunch of blocking information pieces, a bunch of stuff like this, just different thicknesses. So we could block up these shelves just as a template to see how high we wanted each shelf. And I think that worked very well for us to determine how high we want our first shelf, our second shelf, and our third shelf, because they're not an even step. And one thing I like to point out, if you do this to determine the design of your particular spice shelf, the ones at the back, don't get it so close to the top up here. If the containers are real close to the bottom of the shelf above it, you'll have trouble turning it to get it out without moving the stuff in front of it. So that's one thing you want to watch for. But that's what we did. And our shelf, we will design or build it to come on over about this far. And that way we'll still have some space over here at the far right side for our taller containers of things. But that's how we determined the dimensions for the spice shelf that we want to build in here. Now here we are back at our cabinet where we started. We've put our temporary shelves in here and we've used them for a while. I think it's been like 7 weeks since we actually started this video, but we wanted to use our temporary shelves for a while to see how they worked out as normal day-to-day usage. And what we found was we don't really need 3 shelves, we only need 2. And so we've got the 2 shelves at the height that we like, that works for the spices that we have. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you do something like this, build you some temporary shelves. that are not nailed together that you can adjust to get it adjusted for the spices that you have. But anyway, what we've decided we're going to do with these tall bottles back here, we got those on a shelf, but it's about the same height as our first shelf. So what we're going to do, we ended up with two shelves, one here and one here. We're going to make this first shelf it's going to extend all the way the width and all the way back. And so these bottles that are over here that are really tall will sit on it. Now for these taller ones here, we'll actually build this shelf on top of this shelf. And you'll be able to see this a lot better when I get it built and we put it in. But you know, because we did temporary shelving and we've used them for a while just on day-to-day usage, we've come to better understand what works best for us. And I think that's important. If you're going to build a custom shelf, make sure you build something that works for you with your application. Don't worry about somebody's specific numbers. So anyway, that's what we're going to build. So let's move on to building this thing. Now we're down here in our basement where we do our woodworking stuff, and I cut a shelf. It's 5.5 inches this wide, so it's a 1x6. Yeah, it's 5.5 inches wide. And I cut it at 26 inches long, which will fit inside our cabinet. But we also made sure that we could get that in the cabinet, because you can't go straight in because of and I'll show this later when we're upstairs, the facing on the cabinet comes in some, but we can get this in our cabinet. And to raise it up, I needed it to come up 1 3/8 of an inch. So I cut these little 2x4 blocks, and I'm going to have 3 of them, about like so. And our shelf will be like so on top of it. Now I'll bring the legs in a little bit from the edge just to make it easier to get this in our cabinet. And I'll show you that a little bit later when we're upstairs and we got this put together. But there's a reason for this leg coming in like it does. And we also decided we're going to cut out this piece right here. So this back here will be the shelf where our really tall stuff was over on the far right. And you'll see that better when we get it finished, but we'll be cutting this out, putting this together, and then we'll build our other little shelf on top of that. At this point, we're finished with the woodworking part of our building our little shelf. This is what it looks like. I don't have these parts nailed together yet, but this would be our bottom shelf. I put 3 legs under it. 2 would have been more than sufficient because this board's not going to sag or anything, but I just thought it looked better with a center foot in it. Cut the little notch out that we talked about. We'll show you how that looks when we get it in the cabinet. We sanded it nice and smooth. To build something for your sweetie, you don't want edges where they can get a splinter, because that's just not good. And in this part, the height that we needed was basically the one by here, and the spacing that we needed was exactly 1.5 inches, which is the height of a 2x4. So I just took a 2x4, ripped it to the width that I needed, and just glued that 1x2 on top of it, or nailed it on there. And it'll sit right there like that. I just rounded the corners here a little bit, just make them look a little bit nicer. And so now we're going to stain this thing. And before I nail these together, I wanted to stain it first. So after we stain it, I put a couple nails in from the bottom into this to attach them together permanently. And at that point, when the stain dries, we'll be ready to put it in our cabinet. Okay, now I'm going to start the staining. Got my gloves on and that sort of thing. Just going to get a little on my paper towel here and just start this and let it soak in. We'll just do that over all the parts that are visible. And this point is obviously not required, but we had the stain, and it will blend in with our cabinet a little bit better with the stain on it, so we figured we'd just go ahead and do this. But it will make it look a little bit nicer. Well, there we go. That didn't take much. We might let it dry a little bit, maybe touch it up just a little bit, and that'll be it for staining it. We'll let that dry a little bit. We'll nail the two pieces together, and then we'll be upstairs putting them back in our cabinet. Okay, so here you go. We got our shelf finished. It's all stained up, all nailed together, ready to go. And one thing I warned you about, I'm not sure I mentioned this before, but some of your cabinets, there's a lip here. Okay, when you build your shelf, if you're not careful, you can't get it in there. Now, you can go like this and get it in there. Well, we found if we go like this, we could get a longer shelf in there. Like so. And it's almost full width of my cabinet. But you got to be careful that when you build this, it's not so long you can't get it in there by, twisting it around or something. But anyway, that's our shelf. That's how we built it. So now we're going to fill it up and see how it looks. Now here we are with our new spice rack installed in our cabinet and all of our spices put back in. And you can see, and I put before and after pictures up in the corner so you can see what they look like before and after. And it's just so much easier to see the spices. Most of them you can see exactly what it is, but at least you can see that there's something back there and you got a really good idea of what it is. But I can't stress enough, if you build your own shelf, spend the time to play with different levels, different heights, different widths to get the shelf sizing that works best for you and the spices that you have. And my sweetie wanted me to point out to you, she doesn't like being on camera, but she wanted me to point out to you, there is some empty space right here, but she's shorter than I am. And when she's trying to reach the stuff back here, if the stuff here, it's in the way. So that actually gives her better access to get the stuff back here. And at the same time, if you got stuff that you use a lot, you got a little extra space there that you can put it there. So anyway, that's our build for our spice rack in our kitchen. And if you like this video and you find it helpful, please click like on it and share it with your friends. That really helps us grow and bring you more videos. And if you subscribe to our channel, it makes it easier for you to find our future videos. So we'd just like to say thank you for visiting. Do it yourself with Wayne, and we hope you have a great day.